All right. Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, I got a real treat for you. His name is Nathan Mayo. He is a material sales rep for Granite Construction with a focus on the EZ Street Asphalt. Nathan, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thanks for joining in.
Gobble, gobble. All right. So you're a material sales rep for Granite. Can you go into what kind of you focus on and what this Easy Street is about? Once we cover that, then we'll go into the origin story, to the hero backstory of Nathan Mayo. And then we'll kind of talk about your path and how you got to where you're at today and what you've been into all these years.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on board. I when you sent the email, I just absolutely love the idea of what you're doing. I think it brings a great service to the public works industry, and I'm glad to be a part of it. The EZ Street Asphalt is a polymer additive asphalt, high performance cutback, if you will, used in the maintenance and construction of our infrastructure. In roads, parking lots, whether it's asphalt, conventional asphalt concrete, or conventional Portland cement concrete. It's used in both applications and with both materials. I started with Granite in August. In August, we moved everything over from Sire Industries. That's a different story, but we now have all of California, Arizona, and Utah as the producer of EZ Street, sole producer for those three states. Have been using it EZ Street's been in California since 2014. It's a product that has its origins in Miami, Florida in 1995. The company was formed, and it's a global company too. We have producers in Australia, South America, Canada, over in Norway, and it works in all environments, cold, hot temps. We have obviously in Arizona where it gets really hot, Southern California, all the way up into Canada through the Sierras, all along the west northwest, and it's really been put through the ringer in performance wise. It goes down like you would any other cutback or even hot mix. The difference is, and what sets it apart from everything else, is its longevity and its performance. It's easy to use, and it lasts as long as you need it to last. I tell people that it will outlast the surrounding asphalt that you put it in, whether it's in a pothole or an actual utility cut or trench.
So this Easy Street sounds like a cool product. I'm not too familiar with this side of the industry. So can you explain, like, let's say a regular community member is going down the street. What would they look for to say, hey, we need Easy Street in our city or in our community? What are kind of the pitfalls or what they might see out there that would deem Easy Street?
That's an excellent question. Potholes, obviously, when your coffee spills or your teeth start to chatter or your shocks in your car are wearing out pretty fast, or now with low profile tires, if you're replacing rims a lot because you're bending them, that's probably a good sign that your city streets or highways need to have some attention. And EZ Street Asphalt is a product that provides immediate attention. It'll span that gap between safety and then complete rebuild. So it'll keep the road safe for travel. It'll keep it as smooth as possible while the agencies or the owners of that infrastructure have time to gather the funds and resources to do a complete rebuild. And that could take 10, 15 years. It take a long time. Also, utility trenches. We have, especially out here in California, we have a lot of underground work going on, whether it's fiber optics or now moving all of our high transmission power lines and service lines underground for help reduce forest fire. All those at some point will intersect with a road, and those trenches need to be properly backfilled and compacted. And EZ Street is a great way of either capping that trench throughout while the construction is taking place, and then can be replaced with conventional hot mix if the agencies require that or the permit requires that, or it could stay there permanent. It's really up to the owner's discretion on that, but EZ Street definitely gives them that option. But those are the things to look for in your community to see if you need a product like EZ Street.
So 50, 75 years ago, what was the EZ Street? Like what did, I guess, community or cities use to fix potholes, to refill trenches? And then like that made it so we needed an EZ Street.
So 50, 60 years ago, obviously I'm not that old. My vision tells me I'm old, but I'm not 50 or 60. But being in this industry for well over 20 years, and working on roads that were built 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, they've kind of progressed. And especially in the rural communities, they progressed from wagon trails to highways, freeways, conventional, your local arterials and connectors. And that construction has changed over the years. And before, they used to take gravel and spray a bunch of oil down and spray gravel over it. And that was considered asphalt, but there was no structure underneath that. So that structure fails, the water gets into it and fails. And so how they would fix those back in the day is either put gravel in it that would blow out, or they would put oil and gravel, and that would kind of hold it down. That was a two-part process. And then we started getting into the cutbacks, which was really just a conventional hot mix design that was cut with diesel or kerosene. And it was just designed to slow down the cure time so the guys could work with it. But it had a very short life span in the bulk and storage, to whereas a couple of weeks after it was produced, a month out, it was so hard that it was just really tough to work with. And then it wouldn't stick in the hole and stay. So you're constantly filling that pothole over time. And so that's how we've progressed to this point. And that's when Dag and Lars Seagrens, the owners of EZ Street, saw a problem. They went out and did a bunch of testing and came up with a polymer additive mix design that stays workable for over 6 months. But then also, once you apply it and compact it, it's stable and it doesn't migrate, push, and shove. And then they got the trifecta, the triple threat, they got the performance. So in 5, 10, 15 years down the line, you go back and pull that out, it'll be really hard to distinguish between the EZ Street product and the conventional asphalt that was surrounding it. It all acts and reacts the same. And it really is a game changer, because now you're filling the hole once, you're not filling it twice, 3 times, 4 times.
So how did Nathan get into this industry? I mean, at 12 years old, were you walking down the street, stepping in potholes saying, man, I want to fix potholes? What was the origin story like for you?
Absolutely not. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I wasn't very good in school, because school didn't interest me. It was boring. I rodeoed and did that route. And then I went into the Air Force because I thought, well, I'm not good enough to fly. My eyes aren't good enough to fly, but at least I can be around planes. And I got the typical story of going into the military, where my recruiter promised me everything in the world and gave me exactly the opposite of what I asked for. So I never worked on planes, but I got to work on some runways. I went into combat engineering. I was stationed with 820th Red Horse at Nellis Air Force Base, and had a great career, 4 years, enjoyed it, got out, and worked for a private company and spent some time over in Russia. And boy, talk about bad roads. Holy smokes.
Really?
Yeah, really terrible. And then came back to the West Coast and trying to figure out what to do. And I went to work for Mendocino County, and as just a laborer, entry-level position. It was great. I didn't have to think, just do what I'm told. And I quickly realized that I wanted to be more involved and more knowledgeable. So I worked my way up through the ranks, through the equipment operator stages. I did a couple of years as a engineering tech there, and then got into being a supervisor, promoted there, and running road crews. And then ultimately I found myself running road maintenance operations for the county of Sonoma. And that's when I got exposed to EZ Street for the first time in 2014, when it was first came on board in California. And at that time, I was still in the conventional mindset of cutbacks, cold mixes are temporary. They're there just to hold the fort down, reduce liability, safety purposes for the traveling public. And then over time, as the years went on, I started realizing that, wait a minute, we're filling the holes once now. We're not filling them multiple times. They're not, the material isn't drying out and breaking apart. And as a supervisor, as a manager, I was always looking for ways to improve the operation, make it more efficient, make it easier on the crew from a morale standpoint, manage their health. And if they're out there fighting materials and a lot of elbow grease, we only have so much grease in our joints, and I don't want to burn it up early, so we're broken down human beings when we retire. And EZ Street was one of them. There's a lot of technology out there that has been brought into the industry that has really changed it, and from the new heavy equipment and the pilot controls and to EZ Street is all part of that. And the new products out there, polymer products that are helping us to stretch that life of that particular infrastructure out as far as we can, because we're always short funds. And so sometimes we just got to hold things in place until the revenue is there to do a full replacement. And EZ Street definitely fills that void. And that's how I fell into it. And when I left Sonoma County and took over as the road superintendent for Sutter County, I brought EZ Street with me. And at the time, the crews were using a conventional cutback from a local asphalt supplier. And nobody likes pothole patching, but my crew's pothole production, filling production, skyrocketed after bringing EZ Street on board. And I didn't add 1 man hour to that crew. It just, they were able to do more in an 8-hour, 9-hour day than they used to, because they weren't wore out as quick, because the material flowed and was so easy to work. So that's kind of my background. That's how I got into it. It was not intentional to get into public works. It just kind of happened that way.
I like it because you were so, I guess, inundated, or you liked the product so much, you came and actually got on the side of support for the product. I mean, that's pretty rare.
Yeah. So what happened is, I guess I should have finished that story. In 2020, obviously the year that we all would like to forget, my sales rep for EZ Street informed me that she was going to retire and they were looking for somebody to replace her. And so I started asking questions about her role and what she did. And I'm not a salesman. I to be honest with you, I didn't really enjoy hanging out with salesmen when they come knocking on my door. It always was different when it was a product I wanted, right? So when I was buying a vac truck, I enjoyed talking to my sales rep that was offering that. So that was because he was going to solve a problem that I had.
Yeah.
So he was my best friend in the world while we were going through that. And when you're kicking around numbers like $350,000 to $450,000, and this is government money, and you want to make sure that you're spending it correctly and that the machine's going to be used, you take a different approach. But when somebody's trying to come in and sell you the latest and greatest widget, I just didn't want to be that guy. And so I thought, if I was to go into sales, I could definitely sell EZ Street. I have significant time using it. I see the benefits. So when I go and talk to my customer or potential customer, I'm giving them my experience in using it and how it impacted my operation. I'm not telling them what I think they want to hear. And I'm just saying, hey, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You try it out, you'll see the same thing that I saw. And so I threw my hat in the ring. And when I interviewed for the job, I was honest with them. And one of the guys that interviewed me was the owner of EZ Street. And I said, guys, I'm not a salesman. You're not. I don't look at me as that. I'm just here to share my story, my experience with future customers of EZ Street, so that they know that, hey, I come with background and knowledge and understanding of what they're dealing with every day. The public, rightfully so, can be very boisterous in their opinion of how roads are maintained, our infrastructure are maintained. And to be honest with you, most of them are correct. And we need to do a better job at maintaining them. And I understand the obstacles that these customers are going through in maintaining that. And I know how to help solve at least one problem that they deal with on a daily basis, and that's the potholes. And
Gotcha.
they liked it. They brought me on board, and it's been a good ride. I do miss the emergency response that comes along with public works. I do miss the operating and working on the streets, but I also enjoy helping solve multiple county and agency problems, not just the agency that I'm working with, that I was working with at the time.
Totally. I totally get that. What do you say to the guys who are currently listening to the show and they sit in a city now? They're a municipal government worker and they're thinking like, you know what? There's some of these products that I like, and I see these salesmen making all this money. I could, you know, and they're passionate about the product also. What do you say to them to start or to maybe think about coming to the support side?
You know, I was scared. I picked the absolute worst time in the year to jump to an outside sales role when everything was locked down. And I still don't know why I did it, to be honest with you. I'm happy I did it, but it was just the timing from the environment and the world was weird for me to do that. But anybody that aspires to do that, you are going to give up things that that we tend to enjoy on the public works side and the public sector. But you also gain a whole nother thing, another positive. You get to work with a bunch of different agencies. And if you believe in that product and you know that product it works, it's really awesome to get out there and share that product or that service even with multiple agencies. So now instead of just focusing on Sutter County and its borders, I'm able to focus on all 48 or even 58 counties in California. I even work with the other reps in Utah and Arizona and give them guidance from a public works background on how to better get the product out there so people can see it and see the same value that I saw in it when I was using it. So absolutely, if they have the desire to go out there, it's a big step. It's a scary step. And if you find the right company, it could be an awesome step. And Granite Construction is a fantastic company to work for.
Sure. All right. Let's say, actually, I need a story from you.
Okay.
A story of something that went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix that situation, and then what lesson you learned from it to apply to your future career. It could be from the private side or public side.
You know, that's a really good, that's a great question, Joseph. And I'm trying to figure out which mistake I made, because it makes for a good story. Because I think anybody that's honest,
one or two, right?
Anybody that's honest and is definitely could say, hey, we've made lots of mistakes. And then, you know, the most important thing about a mistake is to learn from it. Yeah. But I would say, geesh, that is hang tight there, buddy. I just gave you an edit opportunity. I think I'll give you one. So, and it kind of goes in line with what purchasing and stuff. And as a government employee, you got to buy a lot of equipment when you're lucky. If you're lucky enough, you got to replace your equipment. Out here in California, we have all these high carb requirements. And so we're constantly changing out equipment, selling equipment that's perfectly good, but doesn't meet the new carb and the law requirements. So we have to change those out. So I had to buy a new tractor and low bed to move our heavy equipment around. And I decided to go with a sliding rear axle trailer or a low bed. And so got it all spec'd out. We bought it. I have 2 brand new Cat M series graders that we're running that I need to move around. Those are pretty much the biggest piece of equipment. Everything else is backhoes and the paver and stuff. So no big deal. So I ordered all that. It all comes in and it's fantastic. And we're playing with it. It's remote control. So you can raise and lower the deck and slide the axles forward, all from standing on the ground or sitting in the piece of equipment you're going to load. Make it real easy for one operator to move equipment around and safely. And unlike the Cozad trailers where you have to get out and break it down, none of that. So we load the grader on it, and I look, and 3 of us just went, wait a minute, we got a problem. I didn't take into consideration of the deck height. And I just it never crossed my mind. And it's the details sometimes that come into play. And we were 4.5 inches too high on that grader. So luckily that 4.5 inches, we had an 8-inch beacon on top of that grader. So we're able to remove that beacon and slide it off and kind of change the lighting, the safety aspect of it a little bit, and put our amber lights a little different configuration to where we could get that height now. But that's kind of scared me. I thought I just spent a shit ton of money and a lot of money, and went, oh no, what are we going to do? You know, I started thinking, do I have to buy low profile tires and all this? But it just comes back to when you go out there and you purchase a piece of equipment, or you start using a material, make sure you ask the sales rep all the questions. Take a step back. It's okay to walk away and think about it and say, okay, what all do I need this to do? Whether it's a piece of equipment or a material, what are outside the box things that may come into play? And I wish I would have asked that question. I wish my rep would have said, hey, you're going to put a grader on it. Let's make sure the height wise is going to be there. But that, I think, is kind of a fitting story for this, that just do your research and make sure that what you're purchasing is going to work for your operation. And whether it's materials or a piece of equipment, it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that on the sales side of things, selling Vector, selling street sweepers. Sometimes you don't know what your customers, like what their application is. You know what you want to sell them, you know what product they want, but you always got to ask the question, well, what are you using it for? How often are you using this? Like, is this one thing that you want only use one time every 3 years, and you're putting a lot of equity into it? Like, maybe we could make that a replacement part or give it to you down the road. So yeah, those questions for both sides, the sales side and the purchasing side, those are huge. And what I've learned, and I'm sure you've experienced this also, when the relationship is better, you can go deeper into those conversations. You can ask those tough questions. But like you said, a salesman coming to say something that you don't really want or not really that excited about, it's kind of hard to go deep on it. So
you're so right. And I try to really make sure that my main focus is making sure that I help that customer. And not every customer is a right fit, right, for what I'm bringing to the table. Now, I will say that I think EZ Street fits in every operation when it comes to repairing asphalt or concrete, but not every operation is ready to handle the change of that. They may have a great relationship with another supplier. That's fine. Hey, relationships are important. I'm good with that. And if you've managing the issues that are around whatever I'm offering, then that's great. Hey, call me if things change. I'm here in an emergency if something happens. I respect relationships that people have, not only with me, but with other people. And it's important. And I just want to fit in smoothly and be there as a support and guidance even down. I have a lot of customers that'll call me up. They know my background and they'll say, hey, how did you handle this issue? Has nothing to do with EZ Street at all. And it's like, hey, bud, this is how I did. Oh, by the way, this was a landmine I stepped on. If you can find another way around, I would definitely go that. The way I went didn't work for me. It may work for you, but this is what the result was. And so I like those relationships. I like it when I get those conversations or those phone calls that have actually nothing to do with the EZ Street product, because I know that I'm able to help them out more than just on the EZ Street front. It's a great service and partnership, if you will.
Sure. So how does Nathan keep his sword sharp? Are you doing like, what's your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly personal development regimen to keep up with what's innovative out there and what's new?
Organizations, right? So like I'm the matter of fact, just yesterday I was elected the treasurer for our local MSA NCVC chapter in California. It's Maintenance Superintendents Association. And we have monthly meetings where we'll bring in industry experts. Like next month, we have a meeting where we bring in California Highway Patrol, and they're going to do a training on vehicle. Actually, it is on vehicle maintenance and safety that we'll then share with our members, and those members are public agencies and even other vendors. And then also going to trade shows, conferences. MSA holds a conference every year, a big one where they have a bunch of breakout trainings that happen, and you associate with that. And you go around, you talk to everybody else that's there, all the other vendors, and you find out what the latest and greatest is, whether it's a new nozzle for the jet on a vac truck, right? Or learning the differences between a mechanical sweeper and a suction sweeper, and how if you're running a chip seal operation in-house on your operation, you may want to look towards the mechanical side versus the vacuum side. And just understanding a little bit more so that I can share that, or I can invite these customers out, because I think education in this industry has been lacking for years. And that's why I absolutely love your program. I'm new to it. I'm going to start. You got a listener for life now, and I'm going to be sharing that with as many people as I can, because I think it's important. I think every vendor, whether they also are selling a cutback material or a high performance cold mix or not, I think we all bring value to the industry, and I want to continue to identify that. I do have guys that I'm still mentoring. One of my employees replaced me when I left, and we talk often. I stay out of his way, but I like to give him guidance, more of a 50,000 foot guidance of support. And if he has a specific question, I have I'll find a specific answer for him. And maybe even do a little research outside of the box if I need a little bit more education, whether that's going on the internet and searching up, or going to these trade shows and asking questions. But these organizations like WRAP, Western Regional Association of Pavement Preservation, is another good one for learning how to preserve the infrastructure that we have. So we can lay down brand new asphalt, but it starts to deteriorate the moment we put it down. How do we get the most longevity out of that? And organizations like WRAP educate the industry on how to do that. And there's a lot of them at APWA, CalAPA, Con Expo next year in March, which is huge, to get out and see what the latest and greatest technology is.
Sure, sure. So you talked about a guy that you're mentoring, one of my passions is workforce development. Like I told you about it before. Like the service that I offer goes directly at that issue in our space. I wanted
Mhm.
to get from you, what are you seeing out there, even when you're on the public side? Like what was working in retaining or attracting new talent, retaining you new talent, training new talent, and then like before you retired, you kind of had to probably pass the baton on to the new guy, and you had to give them certain institutionalized knowledge. So what were some best practices to pass that information on?
So it actually goes. I started a mindset process, and I think this goes back to my military days where cross training was important. Um, you anticipate a change in personnel. It may not happen for 2 years, but if you're not cross training at every opportunity, then when that happens, all of a sudden it comes out of the blue and everybody's fighting to get back in the momentum. You want to have a train, you want to get this train rolling, and then you want it to have to not have to stop if you change the conductor, right? You want to just be able to swap them out, everybody keeps going. The new conductor may take a different route, but the train's still moving, right? And movement is positive. And so what I started doing early on, as soon as I became a leader, as soon as I became a supervisor, I started sharing my duties and what I did with my subordinates. Hey guys, this is what I'm doing. Sometimes I would even say, hey, you want to take care of this for me? It wasn't to shed my duties. It was to increase their knowledge so that if the public works working on the roads is dangerous. I mean, every year Caltrans puts out a memorial. They hold a memorial at the state capitol, and they put out a cone for every road crew worker that has died in the state of California. And there's an incredible amount of cones out there. And so we never know, right? Life is precious. We never know. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. And I know this is getting a little dark, but I want to set things up to where if somebody leaves for whatever reason, we have somebody already pretty good exposure to that role so they can step in and that train doesn't come to a stop. That process, the program, the operation, it just kind of can pick up and keep going. So it really starts before you're even thinking about retirement. And that's what I did with my guys, or at least I tried. I would like to think they would agree with me, exposing them to the next position's role, and learning from them and getting feedback from everybody. I mean, I've learned a lot from the new guys that we hired that had very little experience within public works and the public sector, but they had experience in the industry. And then they brought knowledge with them from the private sector that was like, oh, because the government can be a little behind the times in a lot of circumstances and situations. And you got to learn from everybody. Open your mind up to everybody. Let go a little bit. It's a little concern. It can be a little hard to do, but you let go. You let that information flow. You still keep responsibility, but then you share as much as you can with the guys below you so that they can move up. And it starts early, day one.
Sure, sure. So let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area. You're in Northern California, let's say I-5. What ask of your community in regards to, let's say, pavement, streets, potholes, the whole kind of pavement side of things? What ask would you put on that billboard?
Oh, so you're saying, let me make sure I understand the question. I'm going to put something on this billboard and it's going to be a request to the public?
Yep. Yep.
And that request is in relation to road maintenance
To
infrastructure.
kind of your line of work, yeah.
Patience, understanding.
Sure.
I'll give a story that kind of lines up with this, and it's really goes back to there's a stereotype out there of road maintenance workers. It's the joke. Hey, we just heard that they invented a shovel that'll stand on its own. What are you guys going to do now? And the reason why is we go through life and we see what we see, and then we base an opinion or perception off of that split second of information. My brother-in-law, he owns a tree falling company. So during the summer, he's out there cutting timber, and it's all going off to the mills and ends up in Home Depot and Lowe's. Well, in the wintertime, he's being picked up by local contractors to go out and fall hazard trees in the right of way, a lot of it within the burn zones and everything. And prior to this, he would always say, yeah, you guys don't do anything on the job. Every time I drive by, you're standing around. Well, now he's out there working on these roads, and he's like, I have so much respect for you guys. He goes, I can't fall the tree with traffic driving by, so we have to hold traffic. Then we fall the tree, we clean the tree up, then we can't do anything while we let traffic go for 15 minutes. And I go, yep. I said, guys aren't standing around doing nothing. Guys are standing around because you're coming through the job site. So you've interrupted their workday. Imagine every 15 minutes, you got to get up out of your desk and walk away for 15 minutes and then come back. That's what's happening to these guys. So just be patient. So I would put patience and respect, of what they're doing out there. And hopefully that would get out there. I think programs like yours, we can get that out to even people outside of the industry to listen in every once in a while. Maybe they'd start understanding that. I know Caltrans puts out a lot of programs with, slow for the cone zone and stuff, but I think we need to do more of why do we need to slow for the cone zone and beyond the safety of it, because these guys, we're driving through these guys' work job site, their office in essence. And things don't happen overnight. Materials don't flow smooth. There's issues out there that pop up, and maybe this is just maybe a sign for society in general, is just try to be more kind to each other. Know that your frustrations on that day, they're having frustrations too.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Let's say I'm coming to town. I text you ahead of time and I say, hey, Nathan, where can I get the best burger in town? Where are you going to send me?
Well, in California, Arizona too. The big one is obviously I just lost it. In-N-Out, right? But then the little mom and pops. So we have a little joint. I can't think of the name right now, but it's in East Nicholas that makes a great burger. That's right off of Highway 70, Nicholas Ave. And I cannot think of the name of it. Hang tight.
It's all good.
I will.
And what town are you in exactly?
So I personally live just outside of Wheatland.
Okay.
And a little community called Plumas Lake. It's just south of Marysville.
Gotcha.
Sammy's Restaurant has a great burger in Nicholas, California, right off of Highway 70.
Sammy's Restaurant. Beautiful. All right. Well, Nathan, I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey, and then also offer a word of inspiration and motivation to your industry counterparts.
Oh boy. So mentors, right now, a mentor that I have, his name is Tom Francione. He's our general manager for the EZ Street company. He's been a great mentor in guiding me on the private or the public private sector now in sales. And then on the public sector side, I think every employee that I've ever had under my tutelage, Mitch Gomes, Jared Rogers, Fred Espasti, Mike Riker, these guys all I worked with in the public sector, and they really mentored me, whether they know it or not. Steve Stanglin, he's the current road superintendent for Napa County. He and I started, we worked together in Mendocino County before we split and went different ways. And he's always been a great mentor. I consider him a brother. And there's so many to put out there, and I know I can't name them all, but anybody that I worked for has played a major part in who I've become as not only with knowledge in the industry, but also as a person. I think they've all made me a better person, and I just couldn't thank them enough for that.
Nice, nice. And then to motivate all the other salesmen out there, or the guys in your position who are fighting the good fight, trenches, what would you say to keep them motivated, keep them inspired?
Well, first off, stay true to yourself, and rejection's not a bad thing. So don't let it get you down. Rejection's, what's wrong in knowing that that's not an avenue to go down and pick up and move on to the next one, right? Life is full of rejections. I think that's I teach my kids that life will always throw you a curveball and kick you, especially when you're down, and you just got to fight and let it, get over it. It's the old saying, it's not, how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get knocked up or stand up. And that's what I would say is it's pretty tough, especially over the last several years, what we've gone through with the whole COVID thing. But then also with the economy starting to slow down, we got to think a little bit outside the box on how to continue to service our customers and think about everything and just keep pushing forward and stay positive. And tomorrow's a new day and a new opportunity, and search them out. You never know, you might find great resources. Join local organizations like I do with MSA and stuff that are in your field of trade, and make those connections and relationships are everything. Build them, maintain them, and respect them.
Love it. Well, Nathan, thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Have some patience, have some respect for the guys out there fighting the good fight for us. Nathan, any final words before we get out of here?
Joseph, I just want to say thank you very much for taking this podcast on, and I'm going to do everything I can to move it forward and blow it up even more for you. I think it's a very important service that you're providing to our industry, and I want to see it grow. So whatever I can do to help that's great. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on, talk about Granite Construction, talk about EZ Street Asphalt, talk about just public works in general, because it has and will always have a special place in my heart. And I thank you very much for that.
Sure thing. Thanks for that. All right. Well, this has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you for tuning in.